everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome once again to the Feral and Ravenous Comic Vault. It's time for rapid-fire comic reviews. This week I have a small assortment of new comics to talk to you about, or at least small for me, just 8 books, and most of them are Marvel Secret War tie-ins, and one of them is a DC book that isn't even a DC book I usually read. There was hardly any DC stuff this week that I saw, and anything on my pull list, so I thought I'd try something that I don't usually try. Sometimes it's fun to kind of hunt and peck and grab things that, check in on stuff that I don't usually read, to let folks know what that stuff's like. Also, in case you might be interested in it, I want to say thanks as always to Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas for helping us out with the show. If you are ever in the Kansas City area, be sure to check out Elite Comics. They're an absolutely fantastic store, and we really appreciate what they do for us here on the channel. If you have yet to see the Midwestern Panels, our documentary about comic book stores across the Midwest, it is still available for a just $3, a rental here on YouTube to stream, so you can check that out. The link is in the description. And also, if you are not yet supporting us on Patreon, that of course is still available, and if you haven't heard about it, it is just for a couple bucks a month. Of course, there's different tiers with lots of different cool incentives, but for just a couple bucks a month, you get access to a whole bunch, hours and hours. We put up a ton every week of pre-show and post-show material with me and my other co-host, chatting before and after shows about all kinds of things, so you can check that out as well. And now let's get right into it. I want to start off with Guardians of Nowhere #1. This is by Brian Michael Bendis, who of course ushered us back into the world of Guardians of the Galaxy before Guardians became the huge giant cinema success that it is now, and kind of fun that he is doing a Guardians thing for Secret Wars, and with glorious art by Mike Deodato. Really like his style on this. It's really atmospheric, and it fits really well with all the cosmic stuff. I really like how he's using colors. There's a lot of kind of bleak purples and blues. It's this kind of dark, sad-looking book. But it also still has that kind of a little bit of that quirkiness, but almost more that Guardians usually has. But it's a little bit more somber about it somehow, and I really like that. So what we have going on here is we have most of the characters from Guardians, save Star-Lord, who's not popped up, or if memory serves, even really mentioned here, and not sure what's going on with him, or if he's even involved with this. But we have yet another part of Battle World where the Guardians are guarding the head of a Celestial. They're guarding Nowhere. You remember Nowhere from the movie? It was a big head, and it was supposed to be a Celestial, and then they made a city out of it. Yeah, that's this. So the Guardians actually live there, and they're guarding it. And so Angela shows up, and I'm assuming that this is the Angela that is a Thor that is sent to keep everybody where they're supposed to go, where they're supposed to be, like all the Thors that the Doom God has been using. And but there's a lot of different versions of different characters in this, but. So I'm not sure if she's supposed to be one of the Thors, but that is her job in this. And we're getting more and more of these as Secret Wars progresses, and I think it's kind of cool the way that Marvel has been kind of strategically releasing their new miniseries, where more and more, it seems like, at least the ones I've been reading, it seems like as we go along, more of the new ones seem to be about not just showing us a different part of Battle World and giving us kind of a what-if story about an old event, or an old status quo, or whatever, or reinventing one of the old dimensions from the multiverse, but is more about traversing those things and what happens when people find out that there's more in the world than just the realm that they're in, and they break out and they go to different places. So the walls are starting to break down, and it's getting really interesting the more that we're crossing these things together. And anyway, so Angela shows up looking for Gamora because she's broken the rules and left where she's supposed to be. And so I guess we've got a Gamora here from some other realm, and then we've got Drax here, and we've got Rocket, who's in an unusual leadership position, and he still talks and acts like Rocket, and he still has the whole, murdered you thing going on, but he seems to also have a little bit more of a responsible streak, and, cares more about keeping the people middle of nowhere safe than he does about stealing stuff and making a profit. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, overall, I really enjoyed this. Really super quick read. It's mostly just an introduction to this. You've got your kind of standard character reveal at the end of this, and it was somebody that I'm not real familiar with, so it wasn't even really a big deal to me. But anyway, I recommend this if you've been enjoying the Secret Wars tie-ins, if you like Bendis' writing, if you like Guardians, you might enjoy this, but don't expect a really jokey romp. Like I said, it still has some of that quirkiness, but it is like a little bit more somber about it. Next up, Silver Surfer number 13. I am going to be really sad to see this series end. This is one of my favorite things that's been going on over the last year. This is, of course, co-written by Dan Slott and Michael Allred with art by Laura Allred, and this really took me for a loop. This is quite a ride. So we're doing a lot to kind of cap off the journey that Silver Surfer and Dawn Greenwood have been going on, and they're starting to look like maybe they're going to be a couple. They kissed last issue. That was surprisingly satisfying to finally get that. I think that we've been building this relationship to a point where it was really nice to finally get to see that. It was something I was actually kind of surprised that I was waiting for. This is a really romantic book, and Silver Surfer and Dawn start to fly back to Earth, and she is getting Silver Surfer more and more acclimated to human rituals, and one of them is stopping off at places and checking in with folks that you're friends with, because Silver Surfer has always just kind of ridden around the spaceways and never really, he's always been this in solitude, and he hasn't really had friends, and so now this concept of keeping in touch with people is really new to him, and I really like that socialization aspect, and so we kind of get to visit on this sort of field trip, going backwards all these places that we've been before in this book, and it was really kind of fun to, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when you get to the end of some old side-scrolling video games like Mario World, where you've been through this whole game and now you're backtracking and seeing everything you've seen before as you go back in time, and as you go back to the very beginning, and you're remembering all these places you've been, and so that's kind of fun. This kind of checkmark thing, and all of a sudden it gets really heavy and scary, where Silver Surfer finds himself, the Silver Surfer and Dawn find themselves in the middle of the cataclysm that's destroying the multiverse, and I found myself somehow or rather totally wrapped up in this and going, oh, what's going on? And then remembered, oh yeah, of course, the multiverse imploded, and we're backtracking and telling this story up until then, and just now getting around to finding out what's happening with Silver Surfer. The way Silver Surfer looks to be connected to the end of 616 and getting into the new status quo after Secret Wars is really interesting. And of course, it makes a lot of sense that he would be involved in all of that with the Power Cosmic, but it never occurred to me. And this has seemed like such a small kind of B-list book that nobody's paying attention to except for me. I don't hear a lot about this book, but I absolutely love it. It's been kind of in its own little world, which, makes a lot of sense because it's just Silver Surfer going out exploring things, and it's not consequential to any other book, and all of a sudden he looks like he might be super vital to the future of the new Marvel Universe, so that's really exciting. I had no idea what exactly is going to be happening with Dawn Greenwood, and I would expect that moving forward she and Silver Surfer aren't going to be gallivanting across the galaxy and having their own book together anymore. I hope that, and I haven't checked all the solicitations for all the new books. I should have done that before I talked about this, but I have no idea if there's going to be a new Silver Surfer book, but I really kind of hope there is, and in this style, because this is ending too soon. I have just loved this, and it's been a wonderful, blend of anthology storytelling and long-term ongoing storytelling. We've got all these really great, quirky, out-of-the-box Jack Kirby-esque kinds of space stories. The art is so throwback to Silver Age. This feels like it could have been made in any time, and I love how suddenly dire and terrible and chilling everything gets right in the middle of this. This is not really a bad issue to just pick up and read, I don't think. I mean, you won't be as invested in these characters as I am because I've been reading about them this whole time. But it is a really good place to get some more insight into the end of 616 and Secret Wars and stuff. I think that if you're really invested in Secret Wars and in some of the tie-ins and how all that's coming together, this is definitely an issue that you should check out, and it's one of the best of the series. Next up, it's the Ant-Man annual for this year, Ant-Man #1. This is a book that I wrote a full-blown written review on supervillainnetwork.com, and I got a link to that in the description as well, so you can read that if you'd like to. This is a $5 issue that tells a really fun, wacky Ant-Man story, but there's also quite a bit of heart to it, and this is told very much in the standard Stan Lee Silver Age style, while simultaneously lampooning that and making fun of stuff all over the place. It's really funny, it's really smart, there is a joke on every page, and what I really liked about it was that it reminded me of what the Ant-Man origin and all the legacy stuff is about in the comics versus the movie. In some ways, it made me like the movie more because of how it tonally nailed the humor and the flavor of this book, but also made me like it a little bit less because I much prefer Scott Lang's backstory in this than the one he had in the movie. But if you are curious about the differences between how the comics handle that and how the movie does, this is definitely an issue for you. It's not just a throwback issue giving you the history of these characters. It weaves that history into its own story, and if you aren't familiar with that character, it's very easy to pick up and just read this. This is very much a one-and-done story, no need to read anything around it, but it is, and of course, progresses things for folks that have been also, but if you haven't been reading this book, and you know nothing about Ant-Man, especially if you have seen the movie, this is a great issue to pick up and just read, and it's a whole lot of fun. A lot of bang for your $5. There's a joke on every panel. It's really absolutely hysterical. I mentioned that there's a lot of lampooning of Marvel stuff and of Silver Age Marvel stuff, and one of them is we've got this villain Egghead, not to be confused with the Batman 66 version, who is apparently an old arch nemesis for Ant-Man, and he shows up and has this ludicrous plot where he's using some old Pym technology that Pym hasn't looked at or even probably forgot all about in years and years, where he's got these AI versions of the Avengers, but the Avengers that we have now don't all look like these Avengers, and there's a fun joke about that, about how Captain America's a black guy now, and Thor is a girl now, and so you can't take those Avengers, these Avenger robots, and try to replace the current Avengers with them, because everyone will see right through that. That's ridiculous. And Egghead has this absolutely hysterical line where he says, I've never understood Avengers Assemble. I mean, like, they're already there. What is he talking about? So it's really funny. Like I said, there's a lot of heart to this book, but it's also just zany fun and really, really hilarious. Next up, Years of Future Past, #3. The plot is really thickening in this book as we are getting the X-Men together and finally, toward the end of this, putting together a real rebellion, and there's a kind of a neat surprise at the end where we're seeing that is going to be a little bit harder than we thought it might have been. I like the new characters that are added here, kind of some blasts from the past. We've got Lockheed as a giant dragon this time, and he's been trying to save, as he's been trying to help all the remaining mutants as much as humanly possible. but he's kind of in big trouble. And then Nightcrawler suddenly shows up in this, and that is the most fascinating thing so far about it for me, because Nightcrawler is still a priest, and he's still in a church, but it's the Church of the God Doom, and that's really kind of cool. But anyway, this is so authentic to 80s X-Men, and I've said that before, but especially in this book, where we've introduced some new characters in this. We've got this Wolverine's got a kid, and then we've got Kitty Pryde's mother, and all of the stuff is really involved, and I have to try to almost want to make a chart about who's related to whom, and all of that, and that is very old school, Claremontian X-Men. This is very much the X-Men soap opera, and it's written in exactly that style. It's also drawn in exactly that style. So if that is your favorite flavor of X-Men, you really should be reading this book, because it just absolutely nails all of that. Next up, Hail Hydra #1. This is by Rick Remender with art by Roland Boschi. This is really interesting. If you read the Captain America stuff that Rick Remender did for Marvel Now, you're familiar with the character Ian that Captain America raised in the Negative Zone, I think, and then but he's actually the son of Arnim Zola, so you've got the Arnim Zola, yeah, and it's got that classic nature versus nurture bit where he's constantly fighting fighting himself on is he really the son of Zola, or is he really the son of Captain America, and which of those does he more have a duty to? And in this, he we find him in another dimension that has been not just taken over by Hydra, but was developed by Hydra. We have a New York that was founded by Hydra in the first place, which is really interesting. And we've got a version of Ian that I think actually didn't go through all that stuff with Captain America, and who sadly, there's a lot of really bleak, creepy stuff in this, and like just kind of break your heart stuff, where he feels most at home because of where he was raised when he gets to the most hellish and nightmarish stuff in this, where you have all of these slaves that have used up their usefulness, and there's no longer anything they can do for Hydra, and so Hydra is getting rid of their unuseful limbs. That's very very much Hydra. Everybody's a cog in a machine, and they even say that, and so they're all being incinerated. And while he's standing at this incinerator, he says that this is the most at home he's felt, and I think that's just, it tells you everything you need to know about that character. It's so sad. And then the twist at the end is fascinating, and I can't wait to see where it goes. This is not a book that I thought that I would pick up and read past the first issue. I just wanted to review it this week, because like I said, there wasn't a lot going on, so I was like, I'll try that out. And it's really interesting. Now, I have not yet read the Rick Remender Captain America stuff. I know some things about it because Dan Torrey was reviewing it back when we used to do this show live, and I have a couple of trades of that, thanks to Steve Baxi for those, and I'll eventually review those. And so now I really want to go back and look at that stuff. So I think you probably will appreciate this even more, of course, if you've read that stuff, and there's probably a lot of references and things to that I didn't pick up here. But this is really interesting, and like I said, it's also really bleak and disparaging, and really super sad. Next up, we've got Captain Britain and the Mighty Defenders. This is really interesting. So what we have at the beginning of this is a complete reversal, and again, I'm loving all of the what-if type stuff in these Secret Wars tie-ins. And what we have at the beginning of this is this total reversal on the Iron Man origin, where Tony Stark, instead of putting on the suit in the cave and leaving, and Yinsen sacrificing himself, they flip it, and Tony Stark says the world needs a healer, not someone who can just make more weapons. And he gives Yinsen the suit, and he sacrifices himself for Yinsen. Fast forward, and Yinsen has put together a paradise, a complete utopia with Stark tech because of what Stark did for him. And there's this really neat and kind of tongue-in-cheek, ironic moment where he says that if Stark, he gives this press conference and he says that if Stark had survived instead of him, he's sure that they would be in exactly the same place they are today. And of course, we have seen the future of what happens after Tony Stark leaves the cave, and he does his best, but he certainly creates no utopia. This is another book that is doing a lot to kind of break those walls down between, and then here literally between the different realms of Battleworld. And there is so what's going on here is you have all these characters with Yansu and with this version of Spider-Man that is the Prowler first, and then he becomes the very generically named Spider Hero, and you've got She-Hulk. By the way, She-Hulk in this is one of the Thors, and of course her job is to help keep everybody where they're supposed to be inside of each of the sections of Battleworld, and to make sure that no one is blaspheming against the God Doom. And there's a lot of blaspheming that starts to happen here because all of these characters are having dreams. Kind of a cliche to use dreams, but whatever. It's comics, and I expect that kind of thing. But these characters are starting to have dreams of their former lives. And at first I was like, okay, so you've got this alternate universe, and these people are remembering this other alternate universe that I'm not familiar with, and I was confused for a millisecond until I remembered, oh yeah, we destroyed the multiverse, not just 616. So these are alternate versions of characters that came from a previous reality. Everybody following me? That were all retooled and refabricated by Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange when they created Battleworld. And anyway, so there's a lot of blaspheming that starts to happen, and She-Hulk doesn't know what to do about it because she knows they're right, because she also is having those dreams and knows that Doctor Doom is just a man, and that he's not really God, but he, did create this new universe. And then Doctor Doom actually steps in and starts doing things, and that's fantastic and awesome, and I've probably given away too much already. One of the things I really love about this is She-Hulk, and it's funny, but it also makes a lot of sense. Being one of the Thors, she has a hammer. But her hammer is just a gavel. And, of course, She-Hulk is famously a lawyer, and in this she's kind of a judge, and goes around with a very powerful gavel. And I thought that was really smart. Once again, another book I thought I would have no interest in and would be totally lost reading, and I absolutely loved this, and can't wait to read more. Finally, I got very little to say about this. I picked up Harley Quinn number 18 because there wasn't a lot of DC this week, and there just wasn't a lot of other stuff that I was reading, and I said, why not? I haven't read Harley Quinn in a while. Wow, Harley Quinn is doing all kinds of weird things that I had no idea was going on. Apparently, she is the leader of her own gang, and they're all named different variations on Harley Quinn, and some of them are girls, some of them are guys, and one of them is named Harvey Quinn, and she is responsible for all of these people and kind of sees them as her flock, and is very much kind of this motherly figure to them, but also, is kind of their general, and she seems to really have her head together in this, even though she is Harley Quinn and still is kind of a crazy person. But New 52 Harley Quinn has been a lot more calculating than the Harley Quinn that I'm used to, and of course I still don't care for the fact that she's a super genius in this world, but whatever. So what we have going on here is there's this crazy pirate guy who looks a lot like Popeye the Sailor Man, and he has these drugs, and and they're making him kind of hallucinate, and he's doing bad things to Harley's crew, so they've got to go up against him and try to stop him. And at one point, and this is the selling point for the issue, and I actually am somewhat recommending this for the art, if nothing else. I will say that this is not the kind of book that I would read month to month myself, and a lot of it is because I'll get back to where I was going, but let me backtrack for a second. A lot of that is because this is just a pet peeve of mine, I have a tough time sometimes with a lot of really heavy phonetic dialogue where you've got to try to spell out everything exactly the way a person would say it. I find that cumbersome and intrusive, and just give a character a voice. It's okay to do a little bit of it, apostrophe here, letter left off there for flair, and to make it a little bit more clear what a character's vernacular or colloquialisms are, their dialect, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I think you should just write. And this is kind of modern story convention. I feel like in comics this should be kind of true too. I feel like if you just use the right word choice, it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly what kind of an accent a person has. And if you do too much of that, it just gets really hard to read. It's after a while, it's like, I don't even know what these words are, and it makes my eyes gloss over, makes it hard for me to want to keep reading. So that's the big issue I have with it. And it's a very wordy book. There's a lot of jokes and things. It's a lot of the kinds of characters that have a big mouth and talk a lot, and that's not the problem. The problem is just that it's too phonetic. But I would really recommend this to Batman fans on about 5 or 6 pages of art in the middle, when Harley Quinn gets these crazy hallucinations that she is a pirate captain, a sea captain, and I love the level of detail in this section, and all the pencil work. There are, I think, a couple of nods visually to Return of Bruce Wayne with the Batman pirate stuff. The Joker pirate looks amazing. It's a really cool suit, and it looks really old school. But it's also just really surreal and fun, and I kind of wish more of the issue had been that. I didn't enjoy the story as much as I enjoyed just looking at that section of artwork. Anyway, that is it for my reviews this week. As I said, there wasn't a ton of stuff to talk about. Now I want to let you know what my favorite book of the week was, and this week I think I'm gonna have to give it to Silver Surfer, although it was a toss-up between that and Hail Hydra, because this book really surprised and shocked me, and I really liked all of the stuff about oppression and fascist governments, and what that kind of world would look like if the whole world, were that way. And you're trying to make a character sympathetic who is raised that way is really tough, and I think that Remender does an incredibly good job of that. As far as cover of the week, I've been having this a lot lately, but nothing is really just grabbing me right away, and I don't want to pick the same book. I guess it's Lockheed torching a Sentinel. That's kind of fun. So I guess I will pick that one. That's a nice epic cover. So Years of Future Past #3, that's my cover pick. Thanks a lot for watching, folks. Sure appreciate it. And if you read any of these books, I'd love to know what you thought of them. And if there's anything you'd like to see me review in the future, books that are coming out that I'm not checking out right now that you want to see me check in with and say a little thing or two about, let me know in the comments below. If you ever want to see us review anything here on The Vault, you can always send things to our P.O. Box, and the P.O. Box address is there on your screen. Thanks a lot for watching. Sure appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan, and happy reading.